My wife started crying and begging me to take her to the hospital after her ex suffered a serious accident. Please, I need to be there. I still love him, she sobbed. I stayed silent, drove her there, and watched her run to him without looking back. That night, I packed my things. She came home to an empty apartment and a note that said, "Don't worry, he can stay with you now." Now she's bombarding my phone, saying, "I didn't mean it, please come back." I'm a 34-year-old man. I met Sarah, a 31-year-old woman, at a friend's birthday party 5 years ago. She was standing alone by the snack table, looking a bit uncomfortable, as you do when you don't know many people at a gathering. I offered her a beer and a terrible joke about the questionable-looking dip, and the way she laughed made something in my chest flutter. We talked for hours that night, and I got her number before leaving. Our relationship moved quickly after that. We had incredible chemistry, finishing each other's sentences, sharing the same quirky interests, the whole cliché package. 3 months in, we were practically living together, and by 6 months, we made it official and rented a place. I should mention that Sarah had been single for about a year when we met, having broken up with her college sweetheart, Marcus, whom she dated for nearly 7 years. It was just time, she told me once. We grew apart. It happens, she didn't talk much about him, which I took as a good sign. There were no photos of him among her things, no mementos I could see. The few times his name came up, she spoke of him neutrally, like you'd talk about an old coworker you didn't particularly care for. I never worried he was the one that got away or anything like that. 2 years into our relationship, I proposed. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. My parents adored her, her parents seemed to like me enough, and our friend circles meshed perfectly. We settled into married life with an ease that made me feel like the luckiest man alive. Looking back, I can see the warning signs, but at the time, I was too blinded by love to notice. About a year after we got married, Sarah started acting a bit strange. Whenever we ran into mutual acquaintances who knew both her and Marcus, there was a tension in her shoulders, a forced smile. I chalked it up to the awkwardness anyone might feel when an ex is mentioned. Then last Christmas, Jen, a college friend of Sarah, came to visit. After a few glasses of wine, Jen started reminiscing about the old days, and Marcus's name came up repeatedly. I noticed how Sarah seemed to hang on every mention of him, asking questions with an intensity that felt odd to me. "How's he doing these days?" Sarah asked, trying to sound casual. "Oh, he's doing great," Jen replied. "Got that promotion at the architecture firm, bought that Dream Lake house he always talked about. Still single, by the way. Guess no one measures up." She stopped abruptly, glancing at me awkwardly. Sarah quickly changed the subject, but later that night, I caught her scrolling through Marcus's Instagram. She switched apps quickly when she noticed I was watching. "Just curiosity," she said with a nervous laugh. "Wanted to see if he still had that awful goatee." I let it go, but something about that moment stuck with me. Still, I trusted Sarah completely. We had a good marriage. We rarely fought, enjoyed the same activities, and had talked about starting a family in the near future. I told myself I was being paranoid, letting insecurity create problems where none existed. But a few months ago, Sarah started acting different. She became distant, often lost in thought. When I'd ask what was on her mind, she'd snap back to the present with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and say, "Nothing important." Our conversations grew shorter, more superficial. She started working late more often, and when she was home, she was constantly checking her phone. I'm not proud to admit it, but one night while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. There were no suspicious texts or calls, nothing to suggest she was having an affair. In fact, her digital life seemed too clean, like it had been scrubbed. That made me feel both relieved and more suspicious, which I know is irrational. During this time, I tried to reconnect with her. I planned date nights, cooked her favorite meals, bought her small gifts. Sometimes I'd catch glimpses of the old Sarah. She'd laugh at my jokes or cuddle up to me on the couch while we watched a movie, but those moments didn't last. She'd eventually retreat into herself, like she was constantly distracted by something she couldn't share with me. One night during dinner, I finally confronted her. "Sarah, what's going on? And please don't say nothing. I know something's bothering you." She looked up from her plate, where she'd been pushing pasta around uneaten, with an expression caught between guilt and surprise. "It's just work stress," she said, but her eyes darted away. "Is it about us? Are you not happy in our marriage?" "No, of course not," she replied quickly. "You're perfect. Our marriage is perfect." But the way she said it twisted my stomach. It sounded rehearsed, like she was trying to convince herself more than me. "Is there someone else?" I finally asked, the question I dreaded most. "God, no," she said, reaching for my hand across the table. "I'd never cheat on you. I love you. It's just I have a lot on my mind with work and family stuff. I promise I'll be myself again soon." I believed her, or at least I wanted to, but something still felt off. The night everything changed started like any other. Sarah was working late again, and I was at home making dinner, her favorite lasagna, hopping for a nice evening together. I just put garlic bread in the oven when her phone rang. She left it on the counter before leaving that morning, which was unusual. Sarah usually kept her phone like it was an extension of her hand. I glanced at the screen and saw it was Jen calling. I answered, thinking it might be important. "Hello, Sarah's phone," I said. There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, hi, it's Jen. Is Sarah there? She's at work. Want me to have her call you later?" Another pause. Actually, I thought she was with you. We were supposed to grab coffee 2 hours ago, but she didn't show. I've been calling and texting." My hand tightened around the phone. "She told me she was working late tonight." Oh, Jen's voice was small. Maybe I got the day wrong, but from her tone, I knew she hadn't. After hanging up, I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring at nothing. Why would Sarah lie about working late if she wasn't at work or with Jen? Where was she? I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted her, asking her to call me, trying to sound casual. Then I sat at the dining table, the lasagna cooling and forgotten, and waited. She got home around 9 p.m., her hair messy, looking tired. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw me sitting at the table in the dark. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" she asked, flicking on the light. "Where were you, Sarah?" Her movement stilled. "At work, like I told you this morning. Jen called your phone earlier, said you were supposed to meet for coffee, but you never showed." Sarah's face cycled through emotions, surprise, guilt, calculation, then a forced calm. "I completely forgot about coffee with Jen. Work been so hectic it slipped my mind. I should call her to apologize." "So you were at work?" I pressed. "Yes, of course. Where else would I be?" I wanted to believe her, but something about her demeanor felt off. She was too still, her smile too fixed. "I don't know, Sarah, that's what I'm trying to figure out." She came over, wrapped her arms around my neck, and kissed my forehead. "You're being silly. I was at work. I forgot about Jen. End of story. Now I smell lasagna." I let it go that night, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I called her office and asked to speak with her. The receptionist told me Sarah had left early the previous day, around 3 p.m., for a personal matter. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started paying closer attention to her patterns, her excuses, her increasingly elaborate explanations for her whereabouts. The woman I'd trusted completely was now a mystery to me, and it was tearing me apart. It was a Tuesday when everything came to a head. I was working from home, finishing some reports, when Sarah called around 2 p.m., her voice shaky. "Marcus had an accident," she said without preamble. "It's bad, really bad. Can you take me to Memorial Hospital?" It felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Marcus, her ex from years ago, why was she so shaken up about him? And how did she even know about his accident? "How did you find out?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jen called me," she said quickly. "Please, can you pick me up? I'm at the office." I agreed, my mind racing as I drove to her workplace. When I picked her up, she was a mess, mascara streaked, hands trembling as she buckled her seatbelt. "What happened to him?" I asked as I pulled out. "Car accident," she said between sobs. "He was on his way to a client meeting and a truck ran a red light, hit him on the driver's side. He's in surgery now." I glanced at her. "Jen told you all this?" "Yeah, she's friends with his sister. Please, drive faster." The hospital was across town, and the drive was painfully silent except for Sarah's occasional sobs. I tried to process what was happening. Why was my wife so distraught over her ex-boyfriend's accident, friend or not? Her reaction seemed excessive. As we pulled into the hospital parking lot, I turned to her. "Sarah, why is this hitting you so hard? I know it's awful what happened to Marcus, but..." She looked at me, eyes red. "Please, I just need to be there. I still love him." The world seemed to stop. I felt like I was watching the scene from outside my body. My wife, the person I'd planned to spend my life with, had just admitted she loved another man, her ex, in the most casual, unthinking way possible. I stayed silent, unable to form words. I drove her to the entrance and watched her run into the building without even glancing back. She didn't thank me, didn't ask if I was coming in, didn't acknowledge the bomb she'd just dropped on our marriage. In that moment, I ceased to exist for her. I sat in the parking lot for what felt like hours, staring at the hospital entrance. Part of me wanted to follow her, to demand answers, but a larger part knew exactly what was happening. The pieces were falling into place, her distant behavior, the missed coffee with Jen, the late nights at work. Sarah had been seeing Marcus again. Since when? I didn't know. Did it matter? She still loved him. She said it so clearly, so honestly, that it left no room for misinterpretation. I finally drove home. Our apartment now felt foreign, like I was walking through a stranger's life. I sat on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd picked out together at IKEA, laughing as we struggled to assemble it, and made my decision. I packed methodically, taking only what I needed: clothes, personal items, important documents. I left the furniture, the appliances, most of our shared belongings. Material things felt insignificant now. As I packed, memories flooded in: our first date, the day we moved in together, our wedding. Had it all been a lie? Or had Sarah simply settled for me while carrying a torch for her ex? Before I left, I wrote a short note and left it on the kitchen counter. "Don't worry, he can stay with you now." Simple, direct. I considered writing more, pouring out my hurt, my anger, my sense of betrayal, but what was the point? She made her choice long before today. I called my friend Mike and asked if I could crash at his place for a while. He didn't ask questions, just said, "Sure, brother," with that steady reliability of his. Then I took one last look at the apartment that had been my home, our home, and walked out, closing the door quietly behind me. That night, I turned off my phone. I wasn't ready to deal with whatever reaction Sarah might have. The next morning, I called my boss and explained I needed a few personal days. Then I went to a lawyer to discuss divorce. It all felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. When I finally turned my phone back on 3 days later, there were dozens of missed calls and texts from Sarah. The first ones were confused. Where are you? What's going on? What did you mean by that note? Then they turned desperate. Please call me. We need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. And finally pleading, I didn't mean it. Please come back. I made a terrible mistake. I love you, not him. I read them all, feeling almost nothing. The shock had worn off, leaving a numb void. I didn't respond to any of her messages, but I listened to one voicemail. Please, please call me, her voice thick with tears. What I said in the car, I wasn't thinking clearly. I was just worried about him as a friend, that's all. I don't love him. I love you. Please come home so we can talk. I'm so sorry. Too little, too late. The truth had come out in a moment of emotional honesty, and no amount of backtracking could undo it. Mike let me stay at his place for 2 weeks while I found a small apartment across town. I threw myself into work, started hitting the gym more often, reconnected with friends I'd neglected. On the surface, I seemed to be handling it well. Inside, I was a mess of confusion, anger, and pain. Sarah kept calling and texting. She even showed up at my office once, but I refused to see her. She sent emails explaining that she'd been confused, that seeing Marcus injured had stirred up past feelings that weren't real, that our marriage was what mattered to her. Each explanation felt like another betrayal, another lie. Through mutual friends, I learned that Marcus's injuries were serious but not life-threatening. A broken leg, internal bleeding, and a concussion, but he was expected to make a full recovery. I also learned that Sarah was visiting him in the hospital every day, spending hours with him. Just worried about him as a friend, my ass. A month after I left, Lily, Sarah's younger sister, reached out. We'd always gotten along, so I agreed to grab coffee with her. She's a wreck, Lily said, stirring her latte distractedly. She knows she screwed up big time. By saying she loves him or by seeing him behind my back, who knows for how long, I asked, unable to hide the bitterness in my voice. Lily's eyes widened. What? No, she wasn't seeing him before the accident, not like that. I raised a skeptical eyebrow. Seriously, she insisted. Look, I'm not defending what she said to you. It was awful and unforgivable, but they weren't having an affair. At least not physically. What does that mean? Lily sighed. They reconnected on social media about 6 months ago. At first, it was just casual, catching up. But a couple of months before the accident, it turned into longer messages, reminiscing about old times. She told me about it because she felt guilty, even though they didn't do anything physical. She was confused about her feelings. She should have talked to me about it, I said coldly. I know, I told her that. She was trying to sort it out on her own first, which was stupid. Lily looked down. For what it's worth, I think she really loves you. She just got caught up in nostalgia, and when Marcus got hurt, she panicked, and those confused feelings came bubbling up. And that makes it better. No, I just thought you should know the whole story. I thanked her for her honesty, but told her my decision stood. Sarah had broken my trust in the most fundamental way possible. Even if they hadn't been physically intimate, she'd been emotionally unfaithful, and then lied to cover it up. Some betrayals you don't come back from. 3 months after I left, I agreed to meet Sarah, not to reconcile, but to discuss asset division and separation logistics. We met at a neutral coffee shop, and seeing her hit me harder than I expected. She looked thinner, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. For a moment, I felt a pang of concern, but I pushed it aside. Thanks for meeting me, she said softly as I sat across from her. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. I thought it was time to talk about practical matters. Is that all you want to discuss? A flicker of hope flashed in her eyes. Yes, I said firmly. I've filed for divorce. My lawyer will contact yours. Her face crumpled. Please don't do this. We can work through this. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. You're my wife who told me she loves another man, I replied coldly. A man you've apparently been in contact with for months without telling me. She paled. Lily told you. Yes, and I appreciate her honesty, unlike yours. I should have told you when Marcus reached out. I know that now, but nothing physical happened between us, I swear. We were just talking, catching up. Emotional affairs are still affairs, I said. She reached for my hand across the table, but I pulled back. It wasn't even an emotional affair, not really. I was confused. His messages brought up old memories, and I got caught up in nostalgia. But I love you. What I said in the car that day, I was emotional, not thinking clearly. Those words don't reflect how I really feel. Then why were you visiting him in the hospital every day? I asked. She seemed surprised I knew. Because I felt responsible somehow, like the accident happened right when all this drama was going on, and I needed to make sure he was okay before I could fix our marriage. I shook my head, unconvinced. You ran to that hospital without looking back. You didn't care how your words affected me. In that moment, I saw clearly where I stood in your priorities. That's not fair, she protested. I was in shock. People say things they do mean when they're in shock. Or maybe they say exactly what they mean because their guard is down, I countered. Either way, I can't trust you anymore, Sarah. And without trust, what's left? We sat in silence for a while, the weight of our broken marriage between us. Finally, I stood. My lawyer will contact yours with the details. I think it's best we don't see each other like this again. And that's it, she asked, her voice trembling. You're not even willing to try to forgive me. I considered her question carefully. Some things can't be taken back, Sarah. Some trusts, once broken, don't mend without cracks. I hope you find happiness, whether with Marcus or someone else, but it won't be with me. As I walked away, she called after me. He doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I realized that the moment you left. Please don't go. I didn't turn back. That was 3 months ago. The divorce process is moving forward, though Sarah has been dragging her feet. She refuses to sign the papers and keeps requesting mediation sessions, pleading for another chance. Her persistence would be touching if it weren't so frustrating. Through mutual friends, I learned that Marcus fully recovered and has tried to rekindle something with Sarah. Apparently, she's rebuffed his advances, telling anyone who will listen that she made the biggest mistake of her life and only wants to save her marriage. Too bad she didn't realize that before telling me she loved another man. I've been going to therapy to process it all. Some days are better than others. I miss the life we had, or rather, the life I thought we had. I miss the Sarah I thought I knew. But that person doesn't exist, and maybe she never did. The divorce is proceeding, albeit slower than I'd like due to Sarah's resistance. Last week, I received a handwritten letter from her, not a text or email. In it, she detailed every moment of her reconnection with Marcus, from the first innocent message to the gradual escalation of their communication. She admitted to feeling flattered by his attention, enjoying the nostalgia of their conversations, and getting confused about her feelings. She wrote about the day of the accident, how Marcus's sister called her in a panic, and how, in that moment of fear and confusion, old feelings resurfaced. She acknowledged that what she said to me was unforgivable, but insisted it came from temporary insanity, not genuine emotion. The letter ended with, I understand now what I didn't see then. Marcus represented my past, a simpler time before adult responsibilities. I wasn't in love with him, but with the memory of who I was when we were together. But you're my true love, my present, my future. I was a fool to risk it for a ghost. I'll spend the rest of my life regretting the pain I caused you, whether you give me another chance or not. But I hope with all my heart that you will. It was well written, sounded sincere, and maybe held some truth. But as I folded it and put it away, I knew my decision hadn't changed. Some bells can't be unrung. Some words can't be taken back. Some trusts, once shattered, don't mend without cracks. Sarah still calls sometimes, still texts, still hopes for reconciliation. But I've moved on, or I'm trying to. I've started casually dating, focusing on my career, and considering a move to another city for a fresh start. Life goes on, even after betrayal. If there's a lesson in all this, maybe it's that the most devastating betrayals don't come from calculated malice but from thoughtless honesty. Sarah didn't plan to destroy our marriage that day in the car. She just blurted out a truth she'd been hiding, maybe even from herself. And in doing so, she revealed that our relationship was built on shifting sand, not solid rock. Or maybe the lesson is simpler. Be careful what you say in moments of crisis. The truth tends to slip out when emotions run high, and once spoken, some truths can never be taken back. Either way, I'm moving forward, alone, but wiser. Edit 1. Wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up like this. Thanks to everyone for your comments and messages of support. To answer common questions, yes, I'm sure there was no physical affair before the accident. Mutual friends confirmed it, and Sarah's sister showed me messages where she hesitated even to text Marcus. No, I won't change my mind about the divorce. Some suggested couples therapy, and while I appreciate it, some breaches of trust are too deep to repair. I haven't spoken to Marcus, nor do I plan to. He's irrelevant to my decision. This is about Sarah's actions and words, not his. To those saying I'm being too harsh, maybe you're right. Maybe time will change my perspective. But right now, I can't imagine rebuilding a relationship on such shaky ground. I deserve someone who doesn't waver on who they love. Yes, I'm keeping the dog. She's snoring beside me as I write this. Edit 2. It's been a week since the original post. Sarah found it. A friend recognized our situation and sent it to her. At first, she was upset about me sharing something so personal, but after reading the comments, she said she better understands my perspective and the damage she caused. She's finally agreed to sign the divorce papers without further delay. In a way, this gave us both some closure. Yesterday, we had a civil, almost friendly conversation about dividing our belongings. It was the first time in months we talked without tension or tears on my part. I've accepted a job offer in another state, a fresh start, as the cliché goes. Thanks again to everyone. This community helped more than you know. And yes, the dog is coming with me.